Welcome to High School Backups Podcast. We are here today on episode 13 or 14. I don't remember the exact number. I never do, but it's funny because it's a part of the joke. We have Kyle here today yelling at his hockey team who's still in the playoffs. Is to a much better hockey team.
Starting up early, boys.
Bruins would have beat the Penguins in 5. Simple as that. So, anyways, here we are. Moving on. We also have the lovely Andrew, who may or may not be playing Madden in the background. Jake, who's been offered all the food now that he is home. And we have the lovely Steven at his mother's place. It's on shambles still, and it's been 3 weeks. So here we go.
Hey, it might get done this week. We might get our apartment back.
I don't know. Maybe I'll come back from the wedding and it'll be done. We'll see. So, jumping right into the New England news, Red Sox tied for the best record in the last 10 games in the whole league. They are killing it. Won all three of their last series while the Yankees are going down. Nothing, no big surprise here. Anyways, most importantly, Bruins. I don't know if we talked about last week. Bruins did fall out of the playoffs. Unfortunately, we'll see what happens with Bruce Cassidy as well as the rest of the Bruins team, including Bergeron. Celtics just won Game 4 as of yesterday. As of last week, they had yet to have started the series when we started the podcast or filmed it. So they are currently tied 2-2. The Heat didn't look the same as they did in Game 3.
The Celtics should have swept the Heat. The fact that the Heat have won exactly 2 quarters and won 2 games, absolutely insane.
You know how the Heat won the other night is because we had over 20 turnovers. That's the only reason. Cut those turnovers in half, guarantee you're winning that game. And we're
the
up
Heat
3-1.
aren't winning.
Steve, I thought you were a Raptors fan.
The
Heat aren't winning games. The Celtics are losing.
The Celtics are losing, yes. Jake, I am 100% with you. That is exactly what's happening. Lastly, on the Patriots news, there is none, because why would they do anything in the offseason that's worth us paying attention to? So,
I saw some videos of Mac Jones throwing to Devontae Parker.
I did, actually. That is good. That is news. Mac Jones has been at OTAs and has looked sharp and thin.
He's actually dropped, trimmed. Yeah,
he's dropped like 25 to 30 pounds from last year. So,
well, he was down in Miami with a bunch of the receivers. He was there with like Kendrick Bourne and Aguilar and some other guys, and he was like he's put on muscle. Like he's done a lot of work into his shoulder as well, kind of building a muscle there.
The only receiver that wasn't there was Harry.
Yeah, which is probably better that way. So, anyways,
well, I mean, we got to get him. We got to get him some reps in, because if this is the last season, we want to hold on to
his reps could be on the practice squad. So
I can't even say anything, but I think Harry definitely needs to be shipped out at some point during this season if we want to get value off of him.
I think we're all in agreement on that. Yeah. So moving on from that, New England news, pretty good overall, other than the Bruins, but that was kind of expected, unfortunately, as Kyle continues to get plastered by the Hurricanes. So let's go Hurricanes. I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm not kidding. At least if the Bruins, if the Hurricanes win, if the Hurricanes win, that means the Bruins lost the champions, which means we're the second best team in the league, of course.
That just adds for content. That adds content into our podcast with you balling.
If the Rangers don't win, I will ball out crying on this podcast.
That'll be
everyone's
good views. Let's go. Good for content.
Make sure you make that a short.
So, talking a little bit about the rest of the playoffs, we have gotten 3 games, with Game 4 coming tonight for the Mavs and the Warriors. The Warriors have severely outclassed, outmanned, and outplayed the Mavs. Even though Luka's averaging 35 a night, everything we talked about coming to fruition. Everything everyone else talked about coming to fruition.
I always feel like, I don't know, maybe Luka can go off and at least get him one win, but no matter what, Golden State's on fire. Their offense is insane, and they're just gonna basically all that Luka do is just hope he can outscore Steph and the rest of his team, which maybe one game they can squeeze a win out, but they don't stand a chance. But they're going to be such a good challenge for the Celtics when they go to the finals.
Because I'm not a flip-flopper, I feel like I have to hold firm and say Mavs in 7 right now. If Reggie Bullock and, other guys who normally shoot 3 of 10 from 3 and not 0 of 10 could just get back to the 3 of 10, they'll be fine.
They're not
by 40, so we'll see.
They lost by like 8 the other night. What do you mean?
No,
2 games.
I'm not. It's not like they're. It's just it's never happened in NBA history, and
I'm very well aware.
Happened. And for it to happen with this Mavs team, I just don't think they have the pieces to mount a comeback like this. Like they might win a game, maybe even two. They might make it fun. Like I don't know, but like they're not coming back. It's just not how
literally,
the NBA
it's a
works.
dude with a dad bod and a bunch of dudes who are undrafted and picked in the second round, except for Frank Ntilikina, who is the only other lottery pick on the entire Mavericks roster.
Okay, to judge a team with dad bods, though, if you look at the Olympics, the Olympic curling team, the men's curling team is literally just a bunch of dads that are trying to skip out of their family.
You want to talk about
Celtics and Heat, we already talked about a bit, but Celtics hopefully in 6, hopefully they can close out the next 2 games, not beat themselves 2 more times.
Literally, all they have to do is not turn the ball over. Like, the fact of the matter is that the Heat have won 2 quarters the entire series. The fact that they have 2 wins in the series is absolutely asinine. Just nuts.
I mean, you have to give it to Celtics too. Even though we had, 20 plus turnovers, we brought it within 1 at one point near the end of the game. So we still blew it. But the Celtics, as long as we just tighten it up and we have Marcus Smart hopefully coming back, and we have Williams playing insane defense and especially scoring really well, I like our chances. We just can't beat ourselves.
Let's talk about Rob Will making Bam Adebayo look like a baby.
And then Al Horford making him look like a baby as well. It was
all right. Also, I'm gonna go on a quick rant real quick. Sorry, Justin, for any of y'all thought Jason Tatum wasn't the best player in the NBA Finals, I'm gonna just spell something out.
First of all, it's not the NBA Finals, but continue.
Left.
I know,
but
I'm
not only
him because I'm an athlete.
Yeah, Kyle. Sorry, I don't speak coward. All right, so we're gonna talk with one. He scored higher than any of the starters, on the Heat, which is an all-time low. I think actually it's a record of all time. The last time someone scored the low was back in 2003. Not only is he beating the entire Miami Heat lineup, but he's still consistently being our best player on a team that's incredibly balanced. So now you have somebody who's shining, who is better than an entire starting lineup on one team for a game, and yet he is rising above a team filled with talent. So I am having a hard time believing that anybody other than Tatum is the best player right now, just because of how dominant he is with what is around him and how he just made the Heat starting lineup look so embarrassing. Like, it's almost like I'm watching the Giants over the regular season. I just want to cry. It's so bad.
Honestly, though, it says a lot that people were calling for Tatum's head after Game 3. And in Game 4, not a single human being said anything about Jaylen Brown scoring 12 points and shooting 3 of 20.
Yeah,
so I'm just going to put that out there.
I mean,
it says a lot about Tatum.
I just have to say with that, it's just that when you build an all-star team, an all-star player like Jason Tatum, a lot of teams and a lot of fan bases expect that star player to perform to the best
every night
and every night. But it's he's human. You look at LeBron James. He had the same exact thing happen to him, but majority of that came down to how his team performed around him. Jaylen Brown, like you said, scored 12 points. That is something also a factor. You need to expect Jason Tatum cannot carry a team by himself all the way through to the finals. If the rest of his team is going to join him.
And I mean, at the same time too, when you have Tatum really emerging as an incredible star, especially in the playoffs, yeah, you're going to get a lot of criticisms there's a new guy coming in. Oh, see, it's just a fluke. And everyone hates Boston winning because they're sick of the Patriots and the Bruins and the Red Sox for a while. So, of course, this new Boston star, he had an off game. I think they're going to fall apart because everyone's saying the Celtics are the team to beat. And then, of course, Tatum's I just had a bad game. Let me just come back, put up 31 points, and your starting lineup is going to look like a bunch of toddlers out there. So I just love when people just kind of jump to conclusions. Granted, I do as well. When you're a rising star, you're going to get a lot of criticism. And anytime you mess up, you're thrown apart. Like Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. He is actually an incredible starter, but he loses in the playoffs, so he gets a lot of crap for it, but he's still a really great player. So Tatum is a star. He's the best player left in the NBA playoffs. There you go, Kyle. Hope you're happy. And I'm just excited to see them win the series and then eventually the finals.
So now that we were off topic for a while, let's go back to what we're talking about here. The NHL playoffs, the 4 series that are currently going on with the Lightning sweeping the Panthers. I don't think anybody thought they would sweep them. To sweep, it's crazy. And so that was a crazy series. The Avalanche being up 3-1 on the Blues, I think that makes total sense. Kyle said they're
The
overrated. They're
only
obviously
thing-
not. So
How the Flames doing?
so-
How's Calgary? They lose?
Hold up. What? So with the Avalanche and the Blues series, I think it would have been a lot closer if Binnington didn't get hurt. If Binnington didn't miss last night's game and the Blues ended up losing, so now they're down 3-1. If they were able to pull it to an even series, I think it would be a lot closer. But because Binnington got hurt, their star goaltender got hurt, it has completely unraveled the Blues to the point where they're now attacking the Avalanche players. Like they were literally cross-checking them. They're side swiping them. They're going after their legs. Like they are playing dirty hockey, and that's not the Blues style of hockey at all. So the Avalanche definitely got in their head when their goalie got hurt. When they hurt their goalie, accident or not, that's up. I'll let fans of the podcast decide. I personally don't think it was on purpose. I do think it was an accident, but
I mean,
it's hockey. Accidents happen. The goalie got hurt, and the Blues are really letting it get in their head. So the Blues are probably going to end up losing. I'm really pissed off about that because I really thought the Blues could do it.
I mean,
I really liked how the Blues were looking
if you go
in
back
game
and watch,
one. So
if you go back and watch the replay too, I mean, it literally looks like the Blues defenseman accidentally pushed. His name's Kadri, right?
yeah, Kadri.
Kadri into Binnington. Like it did not look malicious. It didn't look like Kadri
No,
was
it
aiming
really
for him.
didn't.
Like it looked like that a Blues defenseman accidentally pushed him into him.
Are you talking about that goalie
like-
getting pushed into the corner?
No, we're talking
No.
about the goalie who got thrown back into his own net.
Oh, okay.
The goalie who got
Yeah.
pushed into the corner is a different one. We'll get to that series next, I think.
Mhm.
I think that's the Flames Oilers one, so we'll get to that one in a second. But like with the Binnington getting hurt, it's really gotten in the Blues' head. It's got not only gotten in the Blues players' heads, but it's gotten in the fans' heads too. Like I was gonna bring this up later, but I think this
Bring
is
it
a
up
good
now.
time to talk about it because it's a pretty serious topic. Nazem Kadri, who was the one who hit the Blues goaltender, he and his family have been extreme victims of very bad racism. Like it has gotten to the point where it's like not even funny. Like not that racism in general is never funny at all, like ever. What's really annoying to me about this whole situation is how little coverage this is getting. The only coverage I have seen on ESPN about this was in a brief article where they were talking about Nazem Kadri's scoring. They were talking about his scoring, and in one line mentioned who was also a victim of racist comment. That's not how this should be treated. This should be treated way more seriously. It's really infuriating, and I'm not even a victim of racism, like ever. For me, like it's really infuriating to see it happen to other people in a sport that I love. It's really infuriating to see it get no broadcasting at all about it.
I mean, it's kind of it's like a tendency to, depending on the sport, where anything kind of race involved. I mean, like when the NFL was coming up, a lot of stuff for like Black Lives Matter, for example. I was honestly really surprised because really anything race related is usually silenced pretty quickly, or let's not talk about it. But what people forget, like I fall victim to this, or I fall into this where it's just a sport. At the end of the day, whether or not they win or lose isn't going to affect whether you go to work tomorrow or whether you're going to live your life or anything. So I know it's really tough as a Patriots fan. There are times, like if I saw Roger Goodell, I would want to boo at him. But at the same time, it's still just a sport. And whatever, if he gets penalized for hitting the goalie, that's something to deal with the league. But
And he did get penalized in game for it. That should have been the end of it.
And it makes no sense. Why would you? And like it makes sense. Why bring race into it? Like why? Like you want to do more damage? No, he's got to deal with the league. His reputation could be on the line after this game. The person's race should not. Realistically, you should not look at race for really anything other than just how somebody may identify themselves. Like you should not treat anybody differently. You should not, go after them because they are a different race, because that's just a low blow and that's just pathetic and cowardly. Like if you're gonna criticize them, like, yeah, you hit him, you're not a great player, but don't criticize him because what race is the player by any chance? Just so I know.
He's Muslim.
Muslim?
Which-
that's even worse.
He's Muslim.
Yeah, because especially especially since the early 2000s, Muslims receive a large amount of racism. I mean, churches where they practice Islam actually receive death threats or bomb threats on a daily basis. But
I was
you go,
some of these I was reading some of these tweets, and some of them were as bad as to say you shouldn't even be playing in this league because of your religion. You shouldn't be. And like, not only were they attacking the player, they were attacking his family. They're attacking his family.
Yeah.
Like, why does the family need to be brought into it at all? Number one, but why are you even bringing the race at all? Leave like that shouldn't even be a topic on anyone's mind. Like, it should be
Nope.
it shouldn't matter. Like, you should be able to look at another human being and see them for a human being. That's all that should matter. And I know people get very driven with sports. Sports motivates a lot of people in good ways and in bad ways. We all obviously sports. We're doing a sports podcast, for crying out loud. Like,
Wait,
obviously
this
we
sports
love
podcast?
sports. Is it? Are you sure? I don't know. But like clearly we love it so much that this is what we want to do in our free time. And like,
Thought
people
this
let
is a true
sports
crime.
dictate their lives so much to the fact that they're willing to do this. It is absolutely ridiculous.
No,
I think
man.
it just
It's uncalled for.
At the end of the day, it's just a game. I know you already said it, Stephen, but I'm going to reiterate it. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it should not affect people like that. And first of all, none of that is ever okay to say, ever. It's a game.
Yeah.
It is
Because
a children's game that men get paid a lot of money to play. It's a game.
And it's one thing to go after somebody and race for any situation. I mean, because we know what happened in Buffalo pretty recently. But it's even worse when their motivations are for something as stupid as a sport. Like, are you kidding me? Like, how worked up do you have to be? How hot-minded and honestly of a person do you have to be to get worked up over a game to go after the person because of their race? Like, honestly, I wish I could just want to just sucker punch anybody who does that, because it's just tell them, like, it's stupid. There's no point in doing it. But and now they're going after their family, and you shouldn't do that ever. And they're even doing it for a stupid reason because of just what happened in a sporting game. Like, it just makes no sense, but people do it anyways, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, and honestly, we are kind of all covered all the points for it, and although it's something that should never stop being talked about, I do want to move on to the rest of it. Yeah, it's a rough subject, and again, we should never really stop talking about it. But for the sake of our podcast, our limited time today, we will move on to the next the other games here. So we also have the Edmonton Oilers being up 2-1 on the Flames.
Let's go.
So
Edmonton.
Edmonton is probably going to do it. The Rangers just scored, which is what Kyle's excited about. I just saw an update on my screen. They're still going to lose 5-1. So yeah, Kyle, what do you have to say about the Hurricanes Rangers, or even the Oilers Flames series?
So I'll just cover the Flames Oilers series really quick. It's pretty brief. I think that game's going 7 games. Battle of Alberta is one of the best rivalries in hockey. For those of you who don't know, Alberta is the province in Canada that both Edmonton and Calgary are in. For those people who don't know Canadian geography. So the Battle of Alberta is one of the best rivalries to watch. So to have it be in the playoffs is amazing. And 2 of the best young stars in the game also, with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Matthew Tkachuk are respectively playing in it. So it's a lot of fun to see the talent. But it's also had some fair share of rough goalie injuries, as Justin brought up just a few moments ago, with the goalie who went absolutely flying into the corner. And for some reason, Milan Lucic, who was the one who did the hit, is not being suspended, fined, or anything for it, which I'm really confused about. Like, I understand it was a hockey play. It was a hard hit. And when the goalie leaves the crease, they are eligible to be hit. But this just looked a little bit more malicious than the Jordan Binnington hit. So I'm kind of surprised as to why the league decided not to reprimand Milan Lucic. I haven't seen any information as to why they decided to not do it. So it looks rough to me.
Remembering Milan Lucic from his Boston days, did he just essentially see a chance to hit a goalie? And I haven't seen the play.
Really, I just watched it. It looks way worse because he just took out the skates of the goalie and gave him a little push. He didn't really the goalie spun around. If that gives you the idea. He could have hit him way harder.
Broken his hip. The goalie could have broken.
Yeah, but Milan could have easily hit him way worse.
Absolutely, that doesn't mean the hit he did do is any less
He
bad. I
barely
could
hit him though.
into someone on the freeway it, but I don't. What's your
My
point?
point is saying that he kind of took his legs out from each of them, which he has the right to do to go for the puck.
No, he does. He can't take out you can't take out a player's legs. That is illegal. That is a penalty. That is either tripping or slew footing. That is not legal. You can't take out
penalty
the
for
player's
roughing,
legs.
so it doesn't matter.
Did he get a penalty on the ice?
I'm asking you.
I don't know. I don't think he did. I don't think there was
You
a
know
penalty
what it
call.
really looks like is he hit him on his right side and it caused him to spin. So so the goalie had no stance. Really, what happened?
Which
he didn't even
is
push him.
another part to really take into account with the hockey player going to take.
There was a
hit
penalty,
is-
by the way.
Okay, how many strides did he take? You have the video up, so
I'm
count how
watching it
many
right
strides.
now.
'Cause that's extremely important.
From 15 feet into the hit, 0. But to lead
Okay.
up to that speed, he took maybe like 2 full
Okay.
strides.
So then that had no impact on the hit at all. Then, which
Yeah, he had already started. He actually slowed down, and then their legs hit each other. That's what hit. Like their legs hit each other, and then a little bit of the hips. I'm telling you, it doesn't look like that much of a hit, but it looks so wild because his right foot, the goalie's right foot, swung around and it sent him into the boards.
So this is
That's two, baby.
this is what he
That's
got.
two,
He got
baby.
a game misconduct penalty for that. I knew I
Okay.
saw
so
it
he
on
was so he was thrown out of the game. Okay.
yeah.
So you know what? I'll backtrack my statement. I'll backtrack a bit.
I knew I got a
makes sense.
notification from ESPN about that the other day. That's
It
how I
doesn't
found
look
out.
that malicious, though. It looks more like an accident that he got a penalty for. Which
To me, it looked way worse than the Jordan Binnington hit. Maybe I need to look back at it and see a little bit more. Because
Yeah,
there's
he
clearly
didn't
a
even
reason
push
it's not
him.
getting suspended. Like there's clearly a reason as to why the league didn't even want to find him.
I'm gonna
So, like,
watch. I haven't seen the Kadri yet. I'm gonna watch that real quick.
that one is not as bad. Like I don't think it wasn't Kadri's fault. Basically, as well as say like it was a bad hit that Binnington took, but it wasn't Kadri's fault.
Oh my god! I saw Swayman and Rask and all the Bruins goalies get hit like this a million times, and no one. So
It happens all the time. A defenseman is trying to block the offensive player from getting a clear line to the net. They block the player out, but they accidentally block him.
yeah, because
into the
Kadri was trying to
opposing
go to
goalie.
the outside. He was trying to go to the
It
outside, and he got
happens.
blocked right back
And
into it.
sometimes the lane that the defenseman takes ends up being in the way of the goalie. It just happens. You know, the defenseman also has to pay attention to where they're skating. They can't just skate around nilly-willy blindfolded. That's not how the game works.
I
don't
just
know.
want to make a quick unrelated comment. I just realized, remember in the first episode where we had one cuss like in the entire thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just-
that one. That
Oh,
one
I've been paying attention
went out
this
the-
time.
right
I
out
just-
the window.
If you audiences, if you guys didn't know, we got together and thought, let's make Justin's life more difficult. Let's just start swearing a poop ton. Just
We
to
did
make
it. The issue is that we're only through 2 topics, and we just started. So short answer is the Rangers are up 2-0. They will still lose 5-2. So
One
anyways,
last series. We still have one last series. I'll keep it very brief. Rangers are going to win the series in 6 games. We're done. Moving on.
Okay.
Psych. Anyways,
That's cute.
Carolina's going to win at least one more game. At least. I'll
Not
give
a
you
chance.
7. So moving on to the Sabo and Jim Ban is what my mind just told me to say. But Saban and Jimbo dispute or debacle, if you will, that's happened over the last couple of days. Essentially, to put it short, Nick Saban leading the #1 football program in the last 15 years in the country.
Not
Alabama,
even close.
one of the top football programs in the last 15 years.
No,
Whatever
I
makes you
mean
feel
like
better.
he's the top football program and it's not close.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I thought you were saying the opposite.
100%.
Saban has
For the last
been a
15 years, however long he's been
nonstop.
there. Whereas you have Jimbo Fisher, right, who's now in Texas
The
A&M, who they have a ton of money. Short
The
answer is the
joke.
NIL, as everyone is at least a little bit familiar with. Essentially, college players can be paid. Is the short answer is what that means. There's a lot. But that's the short idea is that they can be paid. Jimbo and Texas A&M have essentially went from what was maybe a top 25 recruiting class to the #1 recruiting class, both last year and this year, going from 1 to 3 5-star recruits average the last 5 years to 11 this year, strictly because of NIL deals, supposedly. I'm sure it has a large portion, but I'm just saying there's no guarantees, but that is what's likely being looked at. And Nick Saban says that he has not and will not use NIL as a reason for good players to come there, and therefore draft class has dropped down significantly for a team
It's
like
just a
Alabama.
number 2. He's got the number 2 class in the country.
Yeah.
But he's still PO'd about it because now, actually, I don't think that's true. I think I think they're like 5th or 6th now. Maybe they're 2nd.
Hold on, let me look. Let me
But
look. at it.
so it was. So Saban called them out
Jimbo
for.
Fisher, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Saban immediately he apologized. What was it, like 8 to 12 hours after he made
Yeah,
a
he said he
public
shouldn't have
apology.
called out one person.
Yeah.
It is Texas A&M and then Alabama. Alabama has less 5 stars than Georgia, but more 4 stars. So it's
Yeah.
A&M, Bama, Georgia.
Like I'll quickly just say, when you have the resources available and it's within if the recruitment being done is legal or it's within regulation
It
or
isn't.
whatnot, it isn't. Okay. So
How do you know? Okay, how do you know it's not?
Because technically schools aren't supposed to offer students money. The name, image, likeness thing applies to companies. It's not Texas or Texas A&M paying students. The NIL is
Show me where Texas A&M, the school, is physically giving the money from the school to the students. Show me where that.
So
is
that's what
actually
was
applied.
alleged, is that they're negotiating NIL deals with recruits and saying, we'll get you this much money. That's what's being alleged.
Is that fine though? Isn't it? Isn't the
No.
whole point
That
of the
make-
NIL to like help these kids gain sponsors and whatnot? And if schools have sponsors that are willing to work with their specific school and their specific like,
So the problem with the NIL
kids.
right now, companies are going to kids in the transfer portal or students who are entering college and essentially saying, I'll give you this much money to go to this school. And that's not what the NIL is supposed to be. The NIL is supposed to be what Alabama is doing and be a collective group, like a collective pool of money at the universities where they can distribute it to kids who are doing the name, image, likeness stuff with companies. So it's like, I think Alabama sits on a 3 million. I forget where I get that number from. It might be made up. I don't know. But I think Nick Saban might have quoted it in one of the articles I was reading. And so they have a set amount of money to distribute amongst all of them. And so the way the NIL is being used to essentially bribe players to go, good luck seeing any type of like Cincinnati's and non-power fives getting anywhere near the college football playoffs in half a decade. The parity in college football is only going to deteriorate.
No, I don't know about that. I think
Kyle.
No, okay.
Hold on, listen to
me. Let me explain my reasoning for it before you say it. So like, we've seen non-power 5 schools going well and beyond what they need to get star-powered offense and not just on star-powered players in general as a recruiting class. We've seen it with USC this year, which is for this upcoming year. We saw it with Cincinnati. Yeah,
USC
University of
literally just
California.
took a bunch
USC is
of
a
kids
Power
to the trans.
5, and it's a blue blood college
No,
football
they're not.
program.
They're not a Power 5.
They-
I don't
well,
think they're a
Pac-12.
Power 5 school. Oh, Power 5 conference. Sorry, I thought
Pac-12 is a
my
Power
bad.
5 conference.
No, I misunderstood what you're saying. Ignore my stupidity. I will continue to drink beer. Have a good night, folks.
No.
Well,
okay.
If you
So
wanna
here's
see
me.
Cincinnati in the college
Actually-
football playoffs. Goodbye. It's not
I
going to
so-
happen.
Cincinnati is
Did they
moving
really
to the
deserve to be
Big
there
12, by the
though?
way.
I mean, did they really deserve to be there last year? It
Yes.
didn't really seem
Yes,
like
they
I
it.
mean,
did.
also
Um,
the NIL is fairly new, if I'm correct. So
Yeah.
I
Last
mean,
year.
it's of course it's the rough draft of it is going to be something you could take advantage of pretty easily. So the larger programs with more money and more connections are going to take
Alabama.
advantage of it.
Let's say
But
that.
I mean, who knows? I mean, I have a good feeling that in time they're going to find some way to balance it out. Maybe put in a cap that they actually have to stick to for what money they can put into recruiting, or even try to promote, fair brand deals within multiple schools. But I think right now they're just taking advantage of it, and Nick Saban is a little butthurt about it. But guess what? Somebody's recruiting better than you. You're going to have to deal with it.
My biggest problem with the NIL is it's being used in ways that it wasn't supposed to be used. So
Yes.
Zay Flowers is a wide receiver at Boston College, right?
Mhm.
And I believe it was Nike or some company offered him, there were 2 separate companies, offered him money to transfer to either Texas or USC or something like that. I forget the exact schools. But straight up offering people money to leave schools that they have committed to is not how the NIL is supposed to be. And during the recruiting process, it also necessarily wasn't supposed to be used there. I'm not inherently against the thought of the NIL, but it being used in this sort of way, I'm absolutely just very weary of. I don't love it.
Wouldn't the
Yeah.
offering money be similar to, hey, we'll let you go to this school for a lesser tuition, though?
Okay, so
I
that's
said
what me
the
and Chicks
same thing in our
discussed
group
more.
chat earlier.
Yeah, so So me and Jake's discussion was essentially like, because he was kind of on the side of more of the NIL should really exist, or just in general, that was the point that he was or we were kind of
It's
going back
not
and
my
forth.
favorite concept in the world. No.
Yes,
Like
and
I
that
accept and am fine with it existing. It's just not my favorite concept in the world.
yeah, and that they already made enough money with their ability to just go to the school for free essentially for 4 years. And
Mhm.
although I
I'm
agree
just
that's
saying, you're saving
it's an
like
asset.
250K if you go to
Yes.
USC for free.
The issue is,
Okay.
and this is a truth, and I read this in a few different articles, saw a video on it. That's all great and dandy, but a lot of these players, a large percentage, come from areas where they don't have a ton of money, and then they get to go to these schools in large areas for free, and they don't even have money to get food. I literally heard, I was listening to one of the USC recruits, just on a destroying video, by the way. He was talking to a USC recruit, or yeah, I think it was USC or UCLA. He was talking to him. He's like, hey, like, he's like, yeah, or the recruit was like, yeah, I love going to school. I love everything about it, but I can't even like get a pizza. Like, we can't even get dinner. Like, we're here. We don't have money for that because we don't have money at home. Like, we're able to go here. We get meals sometimes from this, like a certain amount per day. But what about on a Friday night when we don't have, like, we can't just go get meals? Everything's closed. Like, we don't have money. And that's where I think the NIL can make a huge positive difference in these kids' lives who are literally filling stadiums for that make schools millions and millions of dollars. And for that reason, I think that they deserve a piece of that. Similar to the NFL, not as much, but similar. I think they deserve a piece.
No, I mean, again, I get it. I'm not inherently against the NIL. I just think it could have been implemented way better.
And I think that could be something
Plus-
in time that could be improved on too, because it is still fairly new.
There's also the aura around college football where it's like, kids are playing for passion of the game instead of money. Like, a lot of people love college football more because of the fact that they think they're playing for the love of the game more than they're playing for the money like they are in the NFL.
And
There
they're
are a
playing
lot
against
of
the
people-
NFL. I mean, come
No,
on.
but
Yeah.
no, but there's a lot of people who love college football more than the NFL because of that aura. And I don't necessarily think it's going to go away, but it's just something that the NCAA has to take into consideration. Like, if they were going to do something like the NIL, they should have been much more prepared to implement it. And I know that the Supreme Court case came down, and all of a sudden it was like all hell broke loose. And everything was just kind of like, okay, we can do this. But it didn't seem like the NCAA was really prepared to do it. So you're seeing all of these problems arise now, and now they have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And
And
if you were going to do it,
yeah.
you should have been prepared to do it.
And yeah, and that's what they'll have to figure out, I guess, right? They have to figure out all these little knots that they have. Speaking on another new product that's going to have a lot of issues that are going to have to get through in order to be successful, the XFL just signed their TV deal officially with what I said earlier, and we'll continue to call it the Disney products and ABC, Fox, FS1,
The mouse
ESPN.
wants its cheese. The mouse
Fair
wants
enough.
its cheese.
Here's something kind of,
Puts
I
a mouse
mean,
in
like
mouse.
that is like the Disney deal, but
Exactly.
that's pretty smart though. That's honestly huge for the XFL because I mean I really don't know who was broadcasting them before, but now they have multiple platforms
Nobody.
they can stream
No
on.
one. No one was.
Yeah.
Nobody.
So now they have
I thought it was
Two-
Fox.
and I'm sure ABC is probably dying to get sports
Maybe. Maybe
kicked
Fox.
off again.
Yeah.
So it's huge for them. Now, when are they planning to do the XFL? Is it going to be like is it going to be like a
Next
spring,
spring.
and summer
Next
league?
Spring football. Spring football.
Spring.
Fantastic. Good because
Next spring.
Yeah.
Right? Next February. Like
Just
the week
imagine if
after
they try to
Super
compete
Bowl.
with the NFL.
No.
No,
They
so I
are
don't
they
think
are
they're
the
gonna-
understudy of the NFL. That has already been
At this-
confirmed.
So
They
at
signed the
At this point,
contract.
yeah, they're the
I
NFL
wanted
feeder
to-
league.
So I saw this tweet earlier, and it was, why doesn't the NFL have an NBA style G League? And immediately the first thing I thought of was XFL.
That's what it
literally
is.
the first thought that came to my mind, and that's already kind of what it's looking to become. Is the NFL and the XFL are going to have the XFL is going to be like the G League for the NFL. The XFL has already have a partnership with the NFL where they're going to try out new rules, they're going to try out new referees, new players, all that nonsense and fun
Which is
stuff that we're going to
Exactly what the
get
G
to
League
watch.
was.
And
Yes.
that's exactly. So like, I'm waiting for it to become like official in the sense where they'll get more XFL. I think they're waiting to do a trial run, a one season to see how it does, because spring football has has pretty much a history of not doing well viewership wise.
I don't know, man.
I-
The Rock looks like
I-
he's killing it.
Yeah, well, the USFL is
does,
doing okay. I
but-
think. I think the
The
USFL is
USFL is
doing
doing
okay.
doing decent. The issue is with spring football compared to the NFL is that there's just such this large gap of talent, and that's why they can never compete with the NFL is because they try to. So I think The Rock is doing the absolute genius decision to, instead of trying to compete with the NFL, just be its underlining partner with it. And I think that's the best way the XFL will succeed, because now people will look at the XFL and go, here are the future players of the NFL that we'll get to see. Here are the future rules, the future refs, like we get to see in the G League.
What I'm
So,
hoping the XFL
NBA.
essentially becomes is the what the G League is to the NBA, where you have a bunch of dudes who are signed to one team who end up being assigned to like the XFL league, and mind you, the G League runs at the same time that the NBA does, I believe. So it wouldn't be like the exact same.
It does.
But the biggest thing that you see in the USFL is the difference in talent in quarterback play. Like the rest of it, it looks absolutely like football. And then you watch these quarterbacks throw, and you're like, it ain't the same.
I want another step. I want it to be like the AAA in baseball. Like I literally want it to be each team has an underlying team that they're
Yeah.
able to pull up these products. Like that's what I want. Like the G League sort of works like that, and like it sort of has those sort of roots. I don't know. Like, does every team have the G League team? Like, is that even 100%?
Not
I don't know.
don't
every
think so.
team, but most
I
of
don't
them have
think so.
affiliated teams at this point.
I
See,
think
ideally,
those
I think
that
they all
don't
should.
have an affiliated team.
Yeah.
I think the ones who don't have affiliated teams share an affiliated team with another like regional team. I agree with you, Nick, that I think everyone should. Like I think there's like
Yeah.
27, 28 G League teams and there's 30 NBA teams. So I think only a couple
And
are missing
I
them.
think the only one that
So.
isn't affiliated is the G League Ignite, but they're essentially just a draft feeder. Like
Why don't
people
we take a
go to
look?
the
I'll
G
take a
League
look
instead
at
of
it.
going to college.
Yeah,
like Jalen
def-
Green did a couple years ago.
No, definitely. And honestly, the XFL is sort of, I think we talked about in our first podcast, like the XFL pretty much already signed with the NFL to be their tester. So hopefully that
That's
translates
exactly
to
what we talked
a
about.
positive relationship. Yeah, like a positive relationship where it then becomes the understudy. And let's say, I know it sounds weird, but let's say it's literally each, at first, there's 8 teams. What if each division has one team to start and you kind of work off it that way? And you each, that's where you send your guys down to and they can play together and they can gain the sort of like, just you have a lot of good players then, and then eventually it gets bigger and you split it up. Like that would be ideal, and no one's gonna complain about spring football. Like there's no doubt in my
No.
mind. Like I don't mind the USFL. So
I love the USFL. It's just it's the quarterback play that gets me, that you just understand that you're not watching the highest level of football. That's really what I'm talking about.
Google is a great friend. There's only 2 teams in the NBA that don't have a G League partnership, and those are the Blazers and the Suns.
Okay.
Every other team has a G League partner.
All right.
But there are G League teams that don't have an NBA partner, like you guys mentioned with the NBA G League Ignite.
Okay.
They don't have an NBA partner. It's kind of like a mix of MLB AAA, but also kind of like its own separate type. The G League is just the G League. Like, there's really no other comparison you can have
Well,
for it. Really.
I think the Ignite were essentially formed for kids that didn't want to go to college that wanted to get paid right away. So it was an alternative.
there kind of
to
is,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
There are
an
a bunch
alternative
of,
to college. It's
Yeah.
an NBA feed, like it's an NBA draft feeder instead of a we're gonna draft you and store you here thing.
there's a
Okay.
bunch of like 18-year-olds that if they want to do the out, and there's really no 18-year-olds, there's no Kobe's, there's no LeBrons all the time. They're going to the G League now. They're getting great experience, and you can see one of them on the Heat in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. The Heat starting point guard, whose name is escaping me right now, he was in the
Kyle
G League.
Lowry?
No. He's their shooting guard.
Bam was in the G League.
Was Bam in the G League? One second, let me look up.
Yeah.
Jalen Green was a top 3 pick from the Ignite literally 2 years ago.
No, it's neither of those names. I'm looking it up right now. It's not. Gabe Vincent. Gabe Vincent went into the G League from college after he played 4 years at college, played 3 years or 2 years in the G League or a year and a half, and is now an undrafted player playing for the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals as their starting point guard. So that
Kyle Lowry is
is.
the starting point guard.
I think he plays as a shooting guard.
Yes, he was.
What? Kyle Lowry's playing shooting guard for the Heat.
I'm double
Really?
checking.
How did they get this far?
He's actually not starting. So their starting lineup is Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, who's also undrafted, Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker, Bam Adebayo. And when Kyle Lowry did start, He started both as point guard and shooting guard.
I miss
Oh,
Kyle
yeah.
Lowry. I wish he was back on the Raptors, but we won't worry about that.
Anyways, point being, G League having that for the NFL could only be a positive. So
Taco Fall played for the Maine Celtics for a while.
yeah, he did play under the Maine Red Claws. So
Oh, right. They changed their name to the Celtics after he was there.
yes. Well, no, are they the Celtics? No, I thought they were
Yeah,
still
they're
the
the
Maine
main.
Red Claws.
I think they're the main Celtics.
They're the
now.
main Celtics. They're the main Celtics. It's
You're
a
right,
green
right.
lobster.
They
The
just-
Green Lobster now.
I freaking love it because they used to be the Maine Red Claws. I love it. Okay, so moving on to podcast polls. Let's get right into it.
Love me some
and take
polls.
out
There
the
we go.
polls for this
My favorite
week.
part of the day, boys.
We'll start it with the obviously the topics that we talked about today. So, who is currently the best player in the NBA? Didn't get a lot of votes this one. It was today. There could be more votes coming, but between Giannis and Luca, and I think that I voted Luca. So everyone else
I
voted
voted
Giannis.
I voted Giannis.
Yeah,
I also
Um,
voted Giannis.
It's one of those ones where I don't think there's a wrong answer. I just think that there's answers that are less right, and I do think Giannis could be the number one player. I think Luca could be the number one player.
I
All
think
depends
what's
how you look
nuts
at it.
about this poll at this point is that LeBron might be the odd one out here. Like at this point, and that's nuts to say because LeBron has been the best player in the world for a decade and a half. Like
This
essentially,
2003, essentially.
since we've all been
Realistically.
watching basketball almost 20 years now, so it's just
Yeah.
insane to think that LeBron might be the odd one out in this poll.
Yeah, and that's the weird part. And at this point, who is the favorite in the NBA Finals? Our favorite to win, excuse me. This should be no surprise. The Warriors have looked like the best team of these Final Four right now. Truthfully, they have looked like the best whole team. Celtics have looked off beat 2 games and looked like the best team the other 2 games. And the Heat have barely been able to beat the Celtics when they have beaten them. Even in the blowout, it looked very weird. It didn't look like the Heat of old. So, and then the Mavs, well, that's Jake's vote probably. So,
No, I think I voted for the Warriors. I'm not stupid.
I also voted for the Warriors.
No,
But I
I'm
was joking.
not.
Honestly, this is probably in order too, where it's Warriors, Celtics, Heat, Mavs. Like that
Yes.
that's my.
And this was before the Celtics won that 4th game, so maybe a little bit of bias there because they look a lot better. Best NBA draft class of all time. This was a little hard because it's only based on their best player, but of course, if you know historically some of the drafts, I know, for instance, that Jordan had Akeem Olajuwon as well in that draft. I don't know about Kobe's, but I know LeBron had like Dwayne Wade in that.
Kobe's had like Steve Nash. I think Dirk Nowitzki was in it. There were a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
But I put the best player from those draft classes in to be like kind of, this was one of the players that was in it. This would be who this was. But yeah,
Fair enough.
It's 03 or 04 or 03 or 84. I'm not.
I think
can't
everyone's on the
convince me
same
otherwise.
page. Yeah, there's a list of Hall of Famers in both of those, and although there are some Hall of Famers in the other 2, there is a list on both of the other ones. So, best expansion idea. This is actually really funny. So we got 1 and 2 right. We got Seattle right.
We got 2 or 2 right.
Well, wasn't Las Vegas the other one?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We have them both up here.
Oh, I was saying that it wasn't voted for, but regardless, we did talk about both those ideas as our 2 favorite, as well as Hawaii. That was like kind of there, but our 2 favorite were Seattle and Las Vegas. And ironically, we heard news today that the NBA is looking at expanding those 2 teams after the new TV deal is done at the end of 2024. So that could be really exciting. We've got talked about it. I really hope they bring back the Supersonics. I don't know what Las Vegas would do, but I really hope they bring back the Supersonics.
Sonics will probably be a thing for Seattle. Like they probably, I think the Seattle fans would riot if they don't name the team. The thing is though, does the Oklahoma City Thunder own the rights to the Sonics? Because they did relocate from Seattle, so that would be the only thing. Like if the Thunder owned the rights to the Sonics, then the Sonics can't exist. So that's the only
The Thunder definitely don't own rights to the Sonics.
I think they do, and I think they would sell it back.
Most times when teams relocate, they keep the rights of the old team. Like, for example, in hockey, the Carolina Hurricanes relocated from Hartford, but they kept the rights to the Hartford Whalers.
That is
so that's why
dumb.
that's why the Hurricanes have been able to throw out Whalers merchandise, especially recently. Like last year, they did a Hartford Whalers reverse retro jersey. They've done a couple other Whalers jerseys in the past to like bring back like popularity for it. So like that's just how it is in hockey. There's a couple other examples I could do for hockey. So I'm assuming it would be the same in the NBA. I could be totally wrong.
I find that to be dumber than dumb because you left. Like, give it up.
Yeah, well, just know that Kevin Durant was drafted by the Supersonics, and that's an important
I'm very
note
well
to get.
aware.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next one here. Who is the GOAT of GOATs? I don't think there's any surprises here. In my opinion, there is a list of names beyond just the 4 that are on here. We can only put 4 names as there's just Twitter polls. So therefore, we did put those. I think that this is probably in the order that it should be. Honestly, I would be surprised Wayne Gretzky was ahead of Tom Brady, but recency bias does show that Tom Brady is the GOAT of GOATs, as he was in a much more competitive league than Wayne Gretzky was.
I mean, you also here's a crazy fact. All right, here's a crazy fact. All right, before Kyle goes off on whatever he wants to talk about, Brady is 39 touchdowns away from being the all-time leader for the Buccaneers franchise, and he played his first game for them when he was 43. Considering he's in his 40s and he's still playing at the top of his game, I think you just can't ignore the fact. Like, look at Ben Roethlisberger, who's 37, or he was barely 40, and he's falling apart physically. Even though there's some recency bias, and also I'm a New England fan, but at the same time, Brady is insane. We have to agree that Brady is insane.
Yes,
at his
I'm
old
absolutely
age.
not going to disagree that Tom Brady is the greatest football player to ever exist. I am not going to dispute with that. I am bringing up a point, though, that Wayne Gretzky has also admitted to himself that he played in a less competitive NHL. So I was going to say that I agree with you guys because I also voted for I voted for Wayne Gretzky just because I love hockey in this, but I do agree that it is Brady overall because even Wayne Gretzky himself has said that he played in a less competitive league than currently exists.
That's what I don't
Before
understand.
we jump to the next poll, I did look up to see if the Thunder own the rights to the name of the Supersonics, and they do. They own the entire history and all memorabilia of the Supersonics.
Wow.
So in order for the Supersonics to come back as an expansion team, they would have to buy it from the Thunder.
I'm sure they would.
Just throwing that out there.
I respect Gretzky for that take, by the way, because clearly sports get better over time. They don't get worse.
Yes,
like, it's not like
yeah.
like players just get better because they're learning more and they know more because previous generations that didn't know now know. It's just I never understood old heads who were like, we'd beat you by 40. Like, no. you couldn't shoot threes. None of you could shoot.
The only way I would counteract that with hockey is because hockey was a million times more physical in Gretzky's era than it is now.
Yeah, but
the only reason that the main difference there is because goalies didn't know how to stop a puck. They'd see a puck and go, "Ooh, let me let that right by me." They didn't know how to put their pen. Goalies didn't know how to play goalie. It was especially in the 80s, 70s, and 80s when Gretzky was in his heyday. It wasn't really until the late 80s, early 90s when goalies really started shining, and hitting in hockey was really different back then. So that's really like the only outlier, although it is a totally different league. The players nowadays are a million times better than they were when Gretzky was playing. Gretzky is still the greatest hockey player of all time, although I don't think it would be for long.
No, and I mean,
I think Connor McDavid is really, really close to beating it. He's already close to beating it.
No, and I mean,
so
just looking at a basketball thing because it was recent. You had JJ Redick say like Bob Cousy played against firemen and plumbers, and I just was like, besides Wilt and Bill Russell, obviously everybody else from that era. I mean, maybe like Elgin Baylor, cool.
Yeah, I agree with you, and honestly, like although Michael Jordan played against some of the best basketball players of all time, I do think that some of the players in this day and age would give him a really hard, like it would be very, very hard if you put up like LeBron in his prime versus Michael in his prime.
Honestly, I want to see Marcus Smart lock Michael Jordan. Prime Marcus.
That's the thing, though, is
that's a tough take, man.
No, he would have a similar effect to like Giannis.
Funny to watch. I don't.
He
think
would have a similar effect to like Giannis. So that whole debate, though, I'm sure we'll talk about eventually because I think of names like Tiger Woods, Money Mayweather, and Michael Phelps, and all these other different.
Usain Bolt? Are you kidding me?
I was just coming up with a short list of other sports. Jeez, chill.
We definitely need to do a.
No, I was gonna say I agree with you. We should do a goat of goats, like a whole like top.
We
10,
definitely should do like a goat of goats, but like not core 4 sports. That definitely needs to be like a next poll at some point. Because like Nick was throwing out some names out there that definitely would give some of these 4 like a run for their money. Like for sure.
Ain't nobody giving Tom Brady a run for his money. He's the goat of goats.
Okay. Anyways, I can't agree
I'll
with that
debate that all
honestly.
day.
Um,
I would
so
debate that
Super
all
Bowl
day.
Tom
favorites
Brady
based on
and
the
everybody
Vegas
else.
betting odds. I think the Rams are going to win again, back to back.
Yes. The
Um,
Rams
No.
proved that a super team could win, and I think they could possibly win it again, especially in a much weaker
Okay.
NFC.
I'm sorry. I don't really know. I wouldn't be surprised if any of these four teams won. Actually, I do think the Bills are my second favorite. I think the Bucks are my third. I do think they're up there. What I do know is the Giants aren't going to win more than 7 games. So that's what's really important.
Also, Kansas
No
City's not.
disagreement. I'm not arguing.
Also, Kansas City's a wild card team. They're not a Super Bowl team. They're a wild card team. All right, we can continue.
I'm
For the record, if the Giants win 7 games, I'm throwing a parade. Like I am popping a champagne.
You'll be
bottle,
the
I'm
only
doing
fan there.
somersaults.
So let's go.
I'm doing somersaults in the streets. Like if the Giants win 7 games, party up in here. All right, I'm telling
Yeah.
you right now.
I
The
saw
last
I saw
poll.
8 or 9 winnable games on that schedule.
Winnable, but
Even
didn't win.
better.
So
Even better.
the best series of the NBA playoffs so far, honestly, has been a lot of snoozers in the NBA playoffs so far. I do think, unbiasedly, that the Celtics Bucks series was one of the more
So
entertaining
good.
ones to watch. Probably the best one so far. I do think the Mavs Sun series was interesting until Game 7. I think that was a good one as well.
As an outside basketball fan looking at these playoffs, because my basketball team sucks. Celtics
No
Bucks
surprise.
series was the best. Celtics Bucks series was the best one to watch by far. That was the one I watched every single game. I did not miss a single Celtics Bucks game. Actually, I haven't missed a single Celtics game this entire postseason run.
I'm surprised.
That's
I'm surprised the
something,
Celtics
but-
Nets one was the second because it was so it wasn't lopsided because the games
It
were all
wasn't
close, but the
lopsided.
Celtics won all 4 games. So
It was the
just kinda-
storylines. It was the storylines, and that's
Storylines.
really and honestly the same thing. There's been storylines for Celtics Bucks and Celtics Heat too. So we'll see where this one goes. We're obviously rooting for the Celtics. I think they can close out in 6. They need to not beat themselves again. That's truthfully what it comes down to. So, any final thoughts for the podcast today, gentlemen?
Nope.
We're gonna have a
Steve's
Seas
dog
go
was
Warriors.
Rangers.
amazing.
We're gonna have a Seas Warriors NBA final, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
We
We
go
will
Rangers.
likely know by next week what the
Let's
finals
go
are,
Rangers.
unless the Celtics go to Game 7. I think that would be on Tuesday. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
We'd
Maybe
be
live
watching
reaction.
it.
Yeah, maybe.
I
Yeah,
can't
we'll
wait to
see.
talk about. Oh, I can't wait to talk about the Celtics victory. Oh, do you want to get down?
Interesting. Anything else, Justin, Andrew? Anything from you guys?
All I know is that the Sox are up 1-0 against the White Sox right now.
Love that. Sox have been
Um,
killing it. Absolutely frying. Go.
Nick, Game 7 is Sunday, by the way, for the Celtics.
Oh,
if needed.
okay.
Oh, we'll
good
know
to
either
know.
way.
Okay,
So
so
you'll
we will know by
So we'll know.
Tuesday what the plan was, and maybe we'll be right because that would mean that Game 4 is on, or Game 6 is on Friday. Or yeah. So, anyways, good luck to the Celtics. We will see you guys next week. Thank you everyone for watching. Please make sure to like, subscribe, leave comments, socials, and this video. We thank you guys for watching, and have a great week and weekend.
80 sprinkles.